when the light gets in your heart, baby. Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me.
Hello everybody. Welcome to another edition of Dave C's G.I. Joe Commentary. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 forgotten G.I. Joes. And the top 5 list won't include any Cobras. I kind of wanted just to focus on G.I. Joe team members. So number 5 on the list is 1985 Toll Booth. And there he is there, the orange hard hat. And he came with the 1985 Toss and Cross bridge layer. And it was seldomly used in the comic, Marvel Comics, and as well as seldomly used on the Sumbo animated series. So out of all the famous Glory Days 1985 Joes, he's definitely the forgotten one. It doesn't mean that we don't like him, of course. I mean, he's very cool. He was the only one from that year that didn't have the swivel neck, the new 1985 ball joint neck that gave more articulation. And some people speculate that he most likely was supposed to be released in 1984 because of that, because all the 1984 figures have the less articulated neck. But yeah, anyway, he's number 5. Coming in at number 4 on the list is 1982 Short Fuse. There he is there. I'll just zoom out now so you can look at the other guys from that year. And yeah, out of all those, he's definitely the most forgotten of the Joe team. There were 3 figures that year who had blonde hair. Rock and Roll, who's a heavy machine gunner, and General Hawk, who of course, 1982, he is the most forgotten. Number 3 on the list is 1983 Silver Pads Grand Slam. And there he is there in the middle. And he was a repaint of the 1982 or 1983 Grand Slam, who came with a HAL laser. And this figure came with the 1983 Jetpack Jump, it was called. And I was able to get this guy back then. I didn't have the original jump system back then, and I always wanted it, but I didn't get it in 82 because I had some other vehicles I chose instead. And by the time I was able to get it, it was actually released with a figure this time, because originally it wasn't. It was just a vehicle without a figure. But I guess Hasbro decided to include a figure with it, so they repainted the 1982 Grand Slam, who had red pads, and changed it to silver pads. So I remember getting this and looking at the figure and thinking, why aren't his pads red? Because that's a Grand Slam, because it's Grand Slam's head, of course. But I also remember thinking, wait a minute, that's Grunt's head too, because if you look up here, I don't know if you can see that. I can try to focus in on it, but there's a mint on card Grunt, and it's the exact same head sculpt as Zap, who's there, the bazooka soldier. There he is there on card. And yeah, so it was just a little bit confusing as a kid. But I enjoyed having him, and he's kind of a rarer figure, and I think that's why I have him on this list, because a lot of collectors don't have him, and a lot of kids back then didn't have him either, because I'm pretty sure they didn't make as many of him as they did of all the other figures from that year. The 1984 Vamp 2 MK2 driver, tan clutch, who came with a tan helmet and a tan repaint uniform of the 1982 or 1983 clutch that came with the original Vamp. And I would say he's forgotten out of all the famous 1984 Joes. They're kind of shown here. And yeah, because the vehicle itself was a repaint, and the figure is a repaint. And I did get him, though, like I said in previous videos, and I really enjoyed having him because I finally got my hands on a G.I. Joe Jeep, because I didn't have the original Vamp with the original clutch. But anyway, there he is there. And there's the box art for the Vamp Mark II, 1984. And as you can see, it's a repaint, like a desert kind of military repaint, compared to the original Vamp. And number one on the list came with the 1983 G.I. Joe attack glider called the Falcon. And the pilot was 1983 Grunt. And he had a tan coloring with a tan helmet. And he was the predecessor in the tan department to Clutch, who we just talked about, who came out a year later with a repaint of the Vamp. There he is there, beside Airborne, on the bench seats there, and wearing his tan uniform with his tan helmet. And yeah, because he came with that glider, it wasn't really the biggest seller, and for that year, and a lot of kids kind of didn't even know that he existed. I know on my block, I was the only one who had the Cobra glider that came with the Cobra Viper, they called it. And he was really cool, the figure itself, because I always loved the Cobra soldiers. But actually, I have a funny story about that one. When me and my dad put it together and tried to fly it in our backyard by our tree fort, it broke. It was just made out of cheap styrofoam. And I remember my dad was like this isn't good. Like this toy, like it sucks, right? So we went and took it back, and I said I wanted to try the G.I. Joe one, and my dad was like, you know, Dave, it's probably the same thing. It's made out of styrofoam, and they're kind of identical. They're just different coloring. And I was like, no, I want the G.I. Joe one. It might be better. And so anyway, we bought the G.I. Joe one, and that tan Grunt there came with it. And so now I had the tan Grunt, and we tried it, and it worked for a bit, but I remember it ended up breaking a few weeks after that, because they were made really flimsy, which is another reason why they're kind of a sought after and rare item these days. But anyway, yeah, I put him number one on the list because a lot of people, I think, forgot about him. We're going to look at something that came in the mail today that actually got hung up in the mail for quite some time, and it's a missing part for our 1987 Defiant, and it's the final part that will make it complete. So we're pretty excited about it, and we're going to open it up now. So I use a knife to open it up, and I can see what's inside. kind of wrapped it with paper. Here it is here, and it's a part that I need. It's a left rear fender, and I realize now that I still need the red gun that goes on here. That gun there that's on the other side. But anyway, it's one more step, one step closer to completing this thing. And well, pretty much all I need now is the red gun for that. Now I can pop this in place. This is a pretty cool moment because I waited a while to do this. So that's the stairwell that goes on there. Maybe off camera I'll play with it a bit and pop it right into place. Don't want to break any tabs, just using one hand right now. But yeah, the only other thing that I need for it is the umbilical cord that goes inside here, that goes on payload's back. But I'm not going to pay 300 bucks for that. That's kind of what they go for now. So instead, I think I'll just go with the wire, 10 gauge wire, I believe it is, and use that. And yeah, so just this red gun down here I gotta get. And so cool. Excited about that. And off camera I'll futz around with it a little bit more and get it closer to how it's supposed to be. Okay, thanks guys.